Do you need to promote your business? Then podcast sponsorship is a great way to do just that. Podcast sponsorship is a great way to connect with new customers, a new audience, a new range of people who don't know about you. It is also an easy way to increase traffic to all of your social media and your website. If you need to promote your business and would like to be a sponsor of the Truths We Hide podcast, then let's connect. Head on over to a wild ride called life.com and click on the sponsorship tab.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Truths We Hide podcast. Today's guest is Lindsey Kizer. She actually is going to share a story that we've never heard before, but I'm so glad that she is in a place to share it. And it's being diagnosed with narcolepsy at the age of 29. And what she wants to do is help to raise awareness so that others do not have to go through the struggles of a long path to diagnosis like she did. And she actually experienced these symptoms for over 15 years. So Lindsey, thank you so much for being on here and for sharing this, because that's a little scary. So tell us about your story.
So, I guess the best place to start is, what narcolepsy actually is. It's a lot of people have this conception, it's just everyone will fall asleep randomly, what you've probably seen in TV and movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually a neurological condition that affects the sleep-wake cycle. So there's a chemical in the brain called hypocretin, and because of narcolepsy, I don't have that chemical. So it causes things like excessive daytime sleepiness, which for someone that doesn't have narcolepsy is comparable to taking, a sleeping medication and then trying to stay awake for, about 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you can imagine that, definitely not the most pleasant thing. It also causes a lot of kind of blurring of dream, sleep, and, wakefulness. So sleep paralysis, hallucinations upon either waking up or going to sleep. And then a symptom called cataplexy, which is caused by sudden emotion, or cataplexy is caused by strong emotions, and it's a sudden but brief loss of muscle control. So for me, it causes my knees to buckle. I may slur my words, or if I'm holding something, I may drop it. It doesn't last very long for me. It's usually within, 5 minutes I'll be back, but it is caused by your body basically paralyzing itself like it would in REM sleep. And then in addition to all of that, just very vivid dreams, which I did not know that everybody didn't experience until I got diagnosed. I really thought that everyone had dreams like I did. And that's not the case. But I started experiencing the symptoms when I was in about 5th grade. But, just like with the general population, a lot of them, even doctors and nurses and things like that, don't really know about narcolepsy. It's still very underdiagnosed. So it kept getting brushed off as me being a normal child or a normal teenager and, staying up late. And that was why I was so tired. Or later on, once I got more into high school and college, it even became, oh, it's depression, or it's the side effects of the depression medication. And it took, a lot of just me staying on it, continually saying this isn't getting better, and finally finding the right doctor that, did think it was more than just the depression to finally get those answers.
Oh my gosh. So 15 years of going through this, and then, but I guess you were right. It people don't know what they don't know. So they keep trying to figure out other things until you find that right doctor to say, no, this is what it is.
Oh, yeah. And just going through that, I've found other ways to make it through. Even in high school, college, and even early on in my adult life, my friends just knew that I was going to have to take a nap just about every day. I would sneak out to my car during work and take naps, just so I could be able to function. And in college, taking classes at certain times so that I could squeeze that in and things like that. Because you have to find a way to get through.
Wow. So how long would these naps last? And was it just once a day, or did you have to take a couple?
It varied over the years. The older I've got, I've realized the longer naps are not always the best. Now most of my naps are about 30 minutes, but it varies from day to day. When I was younger, it was closer to an hour. Usually I would go out, during my lunch hour, or a break in between classes and things like that and take a nap. And sometimes even, either after classes got through or after I got home from work, sometimes there was a second nap.
Wow. So how are you able to control it now besides taking the naps? Is there medication, or I'm sure things have changed over the years. So what are they able to do now for you?
So I am on some medication. They actually treat a lot of the cataplexy with antidepressants. So I am still on that. And then I've got a wake promoting medication I take in the morning and then a stimulant in the afternoon. But also part of it, knowing what it is, I'm able to know what some of my triggers are. So for me, stress is a big thing. So just doing things that I need to keep my stress levels down, in turn, help me with managing a lot of those symptoms. Making sure I've got a really system, that's there when I need it. Trying to eat not always the best, but as good as I can, because there are certain foods for me that I do notice being more sleepy after, or even just, sometimes just a big meal for me. So small things like that, and just being really aware of, when I do things, if they make me feel better or worse, and trying to, take that into consideration.
Wow. Are there, how do I ask this? Is there a severe case, or do you have a moderate case, or how is that determined with narcolepsy?
I don't know if it's like severe or moderate that they put on any kind of diagnosis or anything.
Okay.
I mean, they all are gonna, obviously definitely affect you, pretty drastically. But, when I first got diagnosed, I was not in the same place I am now. It does take time to find out what works, because it's not, a one size fits all. What works for me may not work for the next person. And something that works for someone else is not necessarily going to work for me. There were medications I tried that, honestly, to me, even made my narcolepsy worse. So I don't think it's necessarily severity, at least from what I've, for me. I don't know if I'd consider mine severe or mild, but there are ways, to at least be able to still live life and, enjoy what I can. It just may be, for me, a little bit different way. I may have to take a nap in between something, or, not be able to do everything all in the same day. sometimes breaking things up, but there's still, I'm not going to let narcolepsy be what stops me from enjoying the things that I want.
That is so inspiring, because what do you tell somebody who is going through this, who wants to just give up because they feel like it's just going to hinder what they want to do? Because I just listening to you've decided that this is what I'm going to live with, but this is how I'm going to take control of it, and I'm not going to let it take control of me, as as best as you can. So what would you tell someone who's experiencing the same thing?
The first thing I would say is trust your gut. Like for me, I knew something wasn't right. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily know what. But staying on it to make sure that you find the right answers.
Yeah.
Because if I would have stopped at being diagnosed with depression, I would still be dealing with a lot of this and not really knowing the reasons. And the second is just making sure you have a very strong support system. I've got obviously friends and family, but there's also people that also have narcolepsy that are part of my support system. And, being able to talk to them and them actually understand it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So, finding people that actually, not just that you've known previously before diagnosis, but finding some way to find that support within whatever diagnosis, whether it's narcolepsy or even another medical condition, that actually just understand it. Because there's a kind of support that you can't get from someone that doesn't walk through the same diagnosis as you. And there's some people that have definitely helped me get to where I am today, that have narcolepsy. Because there was a point that I'm like, how am I going to deal with this?
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of online support groups, through video chat, things like that. And those really helped me, see that I can still live a life that I enjoy. It just may be a little bit different path than what I originally thought.
Right.
But having them, that I can say, oh, hey, I'm having a bad day. I'm dealing with this, and not have to really explain it to them, that they already get it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, sounds like that. It definitely makes a huge difference when you have somebody who understands what you're going through, and you don't have to sit there and re-explain and try to make them understand. They already get it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that I think that's so important.
And narcolepsy may not affect a huge part of the population, but I will say, like the ones that it does affect, so many of them are beyond supportive, and they're there for the others that are going through it. There were several when I was first diagnosed. I could send a message, say, hey, I'm really having a hard time, have you dealt with this before? Or, and they would give me their experience. And that was what really helped, to see that it wasn't always going to be as difficult as it was right when you get first diagnosed. Because it is very similar to, like a grief cycle. You go through a lot of the same kind of stages.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the point where you accept it and you're able to, obviously you're never going to be able to just move on from it because it's always going to be there, but to be able to still thrive and, find your own path that's going to still make you happy.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I appreciate your positive outlook, because when each of us go through something that there's not there's not a cure for, but that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, that's hard to understand and hard to just remain positive. So to have that support system, and to just hear your positivity, just yeah, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Just like with anything, that we go through in life, we can sit there and, you know, dwell in it, or we can find a way to turn it into a positive, at least to some degree.
Right,
There's
right.
some people